This is podcast number 1, Creating Space for Wellness.
You're listening to the Wellness Influencers Podcast, a conglomeration of interviews, research, and personal stories in the realm of wellness. All here so you can create a unique well life you love. Well, let's get started.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tyler Peterson from Acu-Plus Chiropractic, and I am here today joined by Dr. Sarah, also from Acu-Plus Chiropractic.
Hello.
And we are here today to talk about the topic Creating Space for Wellness. Dr. Sarah recently wrote a blog post on our website, acupluschiro.com, and today's topic is going to be related to that post. So we're going to get started here today by talking about our first point, and that is, what do you mean by creating space for wellness?
Yes, so this is a concept that I came up with the mentality that we only have so much capacity in our lives. And if you want to think of your life as like a fuel tank, you only have so much capacity. And so if you want to start adding in wellness to your life, you're gonna have to remove some negative things in order to make space so that you can then replace it with wellness things. First step in that process is going to be creating space. So I guess it's more of a preparation for a more well life. And I focus on 2 areas that we really need to focus on with space, and that is physical and mental space. And then with the concept that you're going to clear out that clutter, that you only have so much capacity, that there is some things cluttering up that capacity that need to be cleared out, and then so you can put more wellness into your life. And a point I want to make about this as well is that this is human nature. To accumulate clutter is only human. So we're going to build up physical clutter in our lives, on our countertops, in our fridge, in our closet, and then we're also going to accumulate mental clutter in our minds. And so it happens every single day. We just need to be aware of it, know how to deal with it, and know how to manage it, and we will just be better for that. So that's kind of what I mean.
Okay. Well, that's great. I definitely think that anybody can identify certainly a few areas where they have clutter in their life. So talk a little bit about how somebody can identify some of the symptoms of clutter in their life, how they can identify those symptoms within their day-to-day workings.
Sure. So if you've never evaluated clutter before, you may not be aware of how it's affecting you. So I came up with a few symptoms of clutter overload in both of the categories here. So some symptoms of physical clutter would be things like the space and environment you're living in is dysfunctional, that you are feeling as though you're always kind of working around things in your environment. Maybe when you enter a room, you feel overwhelmed by the amount of work that needs to be done. Or maybe you have so much clutter that you actually are feeling like claustrophobic or enclosed in the space, and that you feel as though you don't have any room, maybe in the countertop or in the closet, or some sort of physical space that's actually being cluttered. So that's pretty straightforward, like the physical symptoms. And then mental clutter, a lot of people are not really aware of this, but it affects everybody all the time. You feel as though if you are overloaded with mental clutter, you're going to feel like your mental hard drive is completely filled up, that you just cannot process one more thought, that you are having difficulty making decisions. Maybe you're not thinking clearly. You maybe are placing a lot of blame or judgment on other people or other things, and maybe you just are really confused. You feel like you have you're in a bad mood, or you're just really negative all the time. Also, physical symptoms like headaches or other types of pain in your body can be caused by your mental clutter, just because you're completely overwhelmed with the stress. So those are just a few of the things that we need to be aware of that could be caused by the physical or mental clutter.
Absolutely. Well, if I am somebody who's experiencing some of these symptoms, or maybe not just one but several, and I want to take some steps to get rid of that, to clear some space in both physical and mental, or just one or the other, what are some actionable steps that I can start taking today to accomplish that?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of ways that you can approach this. So you can go the top-down approach, or the reverse of that, which I guess would be bottom-to-top approach. So the top-down approach means that you're going to start with your mental space, because your mental space is going to be the most difficult to work with, because it just, usually we get into a habit of thinking a certain way and processing things in our minds a certain way, and that is really hard to change. But the benefit of the top-down approach would be that once you conquer that, like once you conquer your own brain space, everything else becomes easier. So if you're a type of person that wants to tackle the hard stuff and then move, and then everything gets easier after that, that would be a good approach. If you want to start simple and progressively get a little bit more complicated as you go along, the bottom to top approach would be your way to go. So that means you're going to start with your physical space and your environment, clearing out the clutter in your home or your work, and then building up to progressing towards working on your mental space. And so I guess some actions for that, the physical actions of clearing your physical space is going to be pretty cut and dry. So you're going to have to go through your household items and throw out or donate things that are not serving you or not bringing you joy at this time. They're not really serving any purpose. I learned how influential this can be through watching Marie Kondo on Netflix. She has a Tidying Up with Marie Kondo on there, and she teaches you basically how to take every single thing in your house and go through it and organize it, which was really, really a good method. So that is one approach. And then for things that you can do to clear up your mental space would be catch yourself when you are thinking negatively, when you are placing blame, when you are placing judgment. Just catch yourself doing that. And then once you catch yourself doing that, stop yourself from doing that. And you'll find that a lot of your brain is used up by processing these negative things, this brain clutter. Like, you spend a lot of time and a lot of effort inside your mind dealing with the clutter. And once you start catching yourself thinking about these types of things and you stop yourself from thinking about that, just like drop it, wow, like it will create so much space in your mind. You're not going to know what to do with yourself because you're like, oh wow, that entire thought was a negative thought, and I'm just like not going to think about that anymore. So but first you have to identify yourself doing those thoughts and then stop them from occurring. So this process of creating space by discontinuing these things, I think will be kind of shocking to people, like how much time you spend dealing with clutter.
Right, yeah. I think that's a big part of everybody's life, at least in some capacity. And so if I'm sitting here thinking, oh, okay, those are some great steps to start implementing, and you may be thinking, well, if it's going to take some work to implement those steps, it's going to require me to do some different things, put forth some effort to make those changes. Is it going to be worth it? What types of things are going to motivate me to want to go through this process, and why should I want to go through this process? That way it's something that spurs you on to go through the whole process, as opposed to just starting it and then stopping in a short time in the future.
Sure. So creating space, why you want to do this is because you are going to eliminate the clutter and you will immediately feel better. your life will improve immediately. So if you are, for whatever reason, if you don't feel good, if you are stressed out with your physical space or your mental space, working on clearing out the clutter is going to make you feel instantly better. So that is going to be like an immediate reward. And then long term, it's also rewarding long term because your life is going to be more functional, more positive. You're going to feel more prepared and ready for the next step in life. And so it not only has immediate benefits of feeling better and like more relieved, less stressed, but it has long-lasting effects in that it sets you up for the next step of wellness.
Great, yeah. So I know you've kind of alluded to this just a brief bit ago about coming up with those next steps towards that overall better life. So why don't you maybe talk a little bit more in more detail about what some of those next steps are moving forward?
So the next step, after you identify the clutter and you are good at clearing it out on a regular basis, and you're proving to yourself that you can keep your physical space fairly tidy and that your mental space is fairly clear of the negativity, and you kind of prove that over and over to yourself, at this point you're ready to start inserting wellness into your life. And so the next step would be coming up with a plan on how to maintain your tidiness, which maintaining something is always going to be easier than the initial cleaning process, Like, right. I don't know if you remember, like, when you were a kid, I don't know if your room was dirty or not, but I was always told when I was a kid, like, clean your room, And it was always such a huge undertaking to clean my entire room because I would let it get so messy. And as an adult, I've learned that it's way easier to just keep things clean with a little bit of effort continuously than to let things pile up and get really messy and then have to spend like an entire day cleaning. So the next step would be to come up with a simple, continuous plan on how you're going to maintain the space and the tidiness, and then also to start inserting purposeful, intentional wellness into your life.
Great. Yeah, I think those are some really good tips that people can take forward and make some really great strides in their day-to-day life. So that's about all we have for today, but before we go, I was just hoping that maybe you could give us a quick little recap, just hitting on the main points of what we've talked about today, so that people have just a little short bit that they can really take away with them.
Yeah. So creating space is with the concept that we only have so much capacity. And if we want to start putting wellness into our life, we're going to need to clear out some room for that. And the way that we do that is by identifying where the clutter is taking place, whether that be physical or mental, and then removing that from our lives with the intention of replacing it with something that's more of a wellness and purposeful concept. So, but before we move on to what we're going to start inserting into our lives, we first have to identify and remove the clutter.
Great. Yeah, it's pretty well boils that down, and I think that's something that everybody can start to put into their day-to-day life and see some good benefits from it. Well, that's all we have for today. If you like our content, you can go ahead and continue to follow us at Acu-Plus.com under the blog post tab. There, you can also catch us on Facebook as well as Instagram. That's going to wrap it up for today, but stay tuned for future episodes. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.